Welcome to Signs Unscripted. I'm Robin Donovan, Editor-in-Chief, and with me today is
Jennifer Konanz of Konanz and Company in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, so Jennifer, you were one of the winners of our 2019 Makers of Tomorrow, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And so tell me what makes your company unique and special, because I know that you have attended some of the letterheads meets and you have some unusual skill.
Yeah, everything that I do is it's all handmade driven. I didn't start, I don't really do vinyl or any of the more contemporary types of signs. So yeah, everything is very traditional. And yeah, I've been learning some skills from the different meets, and yeah, letterheads is one of them. And yeah.
Very cool. So what would you say would be your tips for sign painting or for working with a sign painter?
To get started in it, or?
Yeah.
I'd say find somebody books, or for me, it was kind of hard to access the knowledge. So books were good for me. But really the best thing to do is to find someone who can either kind of work with you or mentor you. And since in my area, it was hard to find somebody, attending the meets and workshops that I had to travel to go find them, but it was totally worth the effort to do that.
Awesome. And so you also have a design background, right? So you got out of graphic design to start doing painting. And how did that happen? I
was working, I had a print, my education was sort of a print background. So I had the choice of either kind of getting more into web and digital design, which I really didn't want to do. So instead, it was actually kind of by fluke that I found a guy who painted movie sets in the city. There's a lot of movies that come through this area. So that's kind of how I started. And I found out that it was a thing that you could paint signs. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I could do this for a living.
So what was one of your first projects?
It was actually, I think it was, with him, it was in a bar. And I remember there was a bowling alley they had in the basement of the bar. So they had this really cool clown face that they had ordered from somewhere. And so we painted this mural sort of around the clown face. It was kind of this, it was the first thing that I had actually done in a business where we painted this thing. It was kind of a mural thing. And it was, I just remember being completely excited to do it.
That's so awesome. And so now I know you have mentioned that you're working on some different, more creative types of signs with your husband. What's that all about?
Well, my husband, he's an industrial designer, through his education. So he is looking to he's sort of getting off the ground with his stuff. So, but in the meantime, he's been helping me out with a lot of different projects. So he's been sort of custom welding different frames. But yeah, one of the most recent ones that we did was this menu board, because they wanted, it was for, I think it was a beer. Yeah, it's a beer tap room. So
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to have a couple different seasonal beers and stuff, but they wanted to be able to change it. So I painted over 300 letters on these little tiles. And so they just slid them in and out. And my husband put together and welded all these track frames and stuff so that they could put it together that way. So that one was, probably one of the most interesting ones.
Yeah, 300 letters. How long did that even take? That sounds complicated.
It's one of the things sometimes I don't want to keep track, because you're oh my gosh, this is taking forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a while.
Yeah. So how long have you had your company?
I started it in 2013.
Okay. So was that 6 years? Yeah.
About 6 years. Yep.
So what would be your tips for we have a ton of readers who are in smaller sign companies and some folks who are just getting started. What are your tips for kind of selling and marketing your services when there's maybe a lot of other people around doing something similar? I don't know if that's as much your case, but just when you're new and you maybe don't have a huge portfolio to draw on.
I'd say probably, what was really beneficial for me was, to be honest, word of mouth. Because I went to school with people who ended up becoming involved in marketing and interior designing and things like that. So those are the people who, if you can convince a couple people to sort of take a risk and spec you on a couple jobs, then that really helps sort of just to start building that portfolio. And then also, if that's not happening, I'd say just do a lot of, do a lot of work on the side, things that you can use to show as samples. And just stuff and make the kind of work that you want to get hired for. So if you're not getting the types of jobs that you'd like right off the bat, then start making just your own pieces that reflect like what you'd like to do rather than maybe what you're doing at that moment.
Currently doing. Yeah. Okay. That's smart.
Yeah.
So you made some kind of samples just to showcase what you're capable of, essentially.
Yeah, I think, one of the first things I did, I did a market. So I basically made a whole bunch of, I participated, it was a winter sale, I think. So they were kind of just more artistic pieces. I did whatever I felt like doing. And then that it sort of spurred people to be like, oh, there's a person around here that does this kind of stuff. And then I started getting inquiries after that.
Mm-hmm. How about your physical space? Where did you first start off working, and are you still there today?
I've always worked like out of my home here. We've got a garage that's sort of built into a studio. So for bigger stuff, I'll work out there, and we do sort of like messier things, woodworking, welding, and all that. And then I paint out of we just have a kind of a space in the house that's been converted to a little painting studio with a window for ventilation.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. We're actually working on moving me downstairs, so I'm going to have a bigger space. But yeah, I like working out of the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it's a very short commute, and you probably have some. Well, I don't know. Is it snowy up in Calgary? I'm not super familiar.
Yes, it is. Yeah, at this time of the year. Yeah, we've had some. Yeah. Well, I guess you guys are Fahrenheit, but minus 25. We had a week of that lately. So yeah.
Yes, quite cold in any degree measurement system.
Yes.
So what about, I'm thinking about, you getting into this, finding clients through word of mouth. What about being a sole proprietor and deciding what jobs you're going to take on? Do you ever like based on personality not take something, or do you ever think, hey, this just isn't the type of work that I want to be doing? How do you parcel out your time to make it work?
In the beginning, I pretty much took kind of anything. I was just happy to be able to build, any kind work is work. And so sometimes now it's gotten to the point where I can be a little bit more choosy. So like the busier I've gotten, I'll take, there's some jobs that you take because they'll pay really well. They might not be as interesting,
mm-hmm.
Or give you like the creative freedom, but then that kind of makes up for being able to do the ones where you can sink a lot of, and I often put in more time than I bill on a job anyways. So then there's those really fun ones that you can, that I'll just really sink my teeth into and be like, oh, this is going to look really great.
Give a little extra time. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't mind, because in the end, you make something that looks really cool, and then you have people asking, for more of that kind of stuff. So
and then
works as advertising as well.
Yeah, and then you can raise your rates over time, I assume.
Yeah, which is what's happened over the last 6 years.
So we just have a minute or so left, and I think what I would love to get from you is some design tip for our listeners. So a lot of people out there might be owners, but they're not designers. So you have a graphic design background, you have all these artistic, creative skills, and you are making really beautiful projects. What tip can you give, what takeaway can you give to folks who want to improve their sign design, whether they're painters or whether they're, just making other types of signage?
I'd probably say, a fundamental background in arts and design principles really helps. But if you don't have that and you're looking to pick some up sort of after formal education, there honestly is there's a wealth of books on layout. And just even studying other people's stuff, usually I'm always looking at what other people have done, and I sort of collect images of work that I thought, oh, that's a really cool way that they laid that out. And then I look at it and I think, okay, how could I apply that to this coming up project or something like that? So I think it's just it's a lot of looking.
Gotcha.
Yeah, looking at good work and then deciding what makes it good.
Mm-hmm. Any particular websites or books that you would recommend? Any favorites?
For design, I would say, actually I'm looking at it right now. I've got the Mastering Layout by Mike Stevens. Older books, anything that is the newer ones I find are not as useful.
Interesting.
The older ones, they're very, I like to go to the older books.
Interesting.
There's Archive, I think it's called archive.org. And because a lot of these books are really old, now they're
out of print,
for free. Yeah. So you can go to archive.org, and I'll just thumb through there and dig out a whole bunch of old resources. You can find full sign painting books.
Fantastic.
For free.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. Now give us your website in case people want to go online and learn more about you.
Sure. It's Konanz, my last name, and KONANZANDCO.com.
All right. And thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on your Makers of Tomorrow win.
Thanks very much.